People endowed with supernatural powers were called the Marked. Agni wandered across the endless snowfield, indifferent to his fate, begging the deity to at least spare the moon and grant her the flame of compassion. His strength left him, and he fell into the snow. All this madness, cold, and hunger were the result of the actions of one gifted one, called the Ice Witch. Those who were freezing from the cold desperately dreamed of warmth and fire. Agni, looking at the moon, asked her to cut off his hand, but to do it with one precise blow. The moon, looking at her brother with concern, asked him not to strain himself and to be patient. The axe blade fell with a dull sound. Agni screamed in pain. After a while, his wounds healed and the limb grew back. Luna noticed that he looked exhausted and suggested that he rest, but Agni insisted on continuing. The seventh hand of the day would be the last. They reached the house of old Jishima, knocked on the door, and handed her the severed hand. Agni assured them that the blood had already been drained, meaning the meat would be able to be stored for a long time, and asked them not to allow it to spoil. The old woman accepted the meat with gratitude, thanked them both, promising to eat it with a prayer. Agni objected that it was not her who should be thanked, but him, because it was his flesh. He also reminded them that there was no point in wasting canned food when there was a more nutritious option. The grandmother sincerely admitted that without the two of them, they would have died of hunger long ago. After checking if all the work was done, Agni heard that there was one more stop, the house of old man Bana. Then Luna admitted that she also wanted to start sacrificing her hands, because she had the gift of restoration. Agni sharply objected. He reminded her that her regeneration was too slow, a week to recover, unlike his, whose wounds healed in minutes. He jokingly said that her meat was not so tasty, skin and bones. Luna, laughing, said that youth is the key to tenderness. Agni, softening a little, firmly stated that he would not allow her to suffer. She nodded, acknowledging his right to protect her. They exchanged a friendly punch and went to Bana, but it turned out that he had died. Agni sighed heavily. This was the sixth in a month. He noticed the untouched hands that he had brought to the old man earlier, and realized that Bana had not touched the meat. Luna was surprised. It was unlikely that his food reserves would have been enough. Agni was sad that he had not noticed this earlier. Luna hugged him. She consoled him, saying that the old man simply could not overcome himself and refused human flesh for the rest of his life. Agni could not influence this plan. The Ice Witch was to blame. She left people without warmth, food, parents, and hope. Agni asked Luna not to leave him anymore. She was his last support. He said that they needed to call a priest for the funeral. Returning home, Luna called her brother to the table. She made a thick stew from his meat and even added some potatoes. Agni replied that he was not hungry. His body was still recovering, and she, so thin, needed to eat. Luna got angry, took a spoon, and began to feed him herself, loudly declaring that he had to eat. The food was delicious, and there was no use arguing. Agni gave in. While they ate, Luna said with a smile that it was as she had expected. The cartilage was simply magnificent, and her brother was a real treat. Later, they went to bed. By candlelight, Luna read aloud from a book that described a world filled with greenery, animals, and fish. She said she had never seen anything like it. Agni admitted that he remembered, at least a little, that warm, living world. He remembered how pleasant it was to plunge into the cool water of the lake, and that the cold then was pleasant, not as piercing as it is now. Luna noticed how her brother's eyes brightened when he spoke of the past. She liked to see a smile on his face. Then she asked him if he wanted to see that world again one day. But with her, Agni swore that someday they would definitely see him together. He covered his sister with a blanket and wished her good night. Luna began to caress him, but he asked her not to do this, reminding her that he was already 15. Luna suddenly asked him if he wanted to have a child. Agni recoiled in horror, calling her a fool. He could not understand where such thoughts came from. After all, they were brother and sister. Luna insisted that they were the only young people in the village and should think about the future. Agni begged him to stop, but Luna said that she loved him. Agni admitted that he loved her too, but emphasized as a brother and sister. In the morning, they went to Bana's funeral. Agni said over the old man's grave that, alas, he had chosen to die rather than break his taboo on human flesh. But if they did not want to die like him, They simply had no other choice. The priest asked everyone to pay attention to his words and said that death is not something to be reconciled with. Even if everything in life is falling apart, giving in to death is the last thing people should allow themselves to do. He suggested that they should send Bana off with honors and express gratitude to Agni and the moon for their sacrifices, and also offer a prayer to the Lord, who continues to protect them. When the brother and sister were about to leave, the priest called out to them and offered them a taste of the white liquid. Agni was surprised to learn that it was milk. The priest explained that it was a gift from a wanderer who had recently visited their village. An old man would have no use for it, but it was a salvation for the young. Agni refused, considering it too valuable a gift. The old man insisted. He said that the frost was getting worse, and if Agni or Luna fell ill, the village was doomed. The priest reminded them that 3 years ago, when they first came here, he had become like a father to them. Then they were found outside the village, frostbitten and almost dead. The villagers brought them into their homes, and he ordered the stove to be heated, although the firewood was running low. Many protested. If they spent everything now, winter would kill everyone. But he answered, they had lived long enough. Now the fire must be warmed for the future. Hearing this, the villagers decided to sacrifice theirs, not for themselves, but for the chance of life for new generations. The priest tried to find out where the children came from, but he never found an answer. So he just lit a fire and prayed that this fire would save them. Later, Agni went hunting and, to his own surprise, caught a deer. He lifted the carcass with difficulty and dragged it on his back, thinking that this would bring joy to everyone. He decided that he would donate the meat to houses that refused human flesh and leave some for the moon. On the way home, he was tormented by the thought of his sister's behavior the night before, but suddenly he noticed a plane in the sky. Agni dropped the carcass. He watched with alarm as the aircraft rushed toward the village. Agni ran there as fast as he could. When he arrived, he saw armed men getting out of the plane. The soldiers began to gather all the villagers in one place, amazed that there were only elderly people in the village. One of the officers called on his comrades to behave with restraint, lower their weapons, and be respectful. He noted that they had not come for slaves. Agni, confused, shouted for an explanation. One of the men, noticing him, noted with surprise that there were young people there after all. He came closer, took Agni by the hand, and introduced himself as Doma. Then he asked to know the boy's name. Having received an answer, he asked why he was so irritated. Agni demanded an explanation. Doma explained that there was fighting nearby, supplies were running low, and their detachment had come for food and fuel. Agni objected that there was nothing to profit from in the village, and ordered him to let him go. Doma, amazed by his strength, said that they would take what they needed anyway. He promised payment and declared that he would recognize the inhabitants, as he recognized the inhabitants of Begemdorg. Agni had never heard of such a place. Then Doma explained. It was a colony of the free, created by order of their king. Opportunities were open to the young. One could make a career, even become a slave. Once they had gained strength, they would defeat the Ice Witch and return the earth to its green color. Agni told them to go away and said that he wanted to stay there. The houses were puzzled by his stubbornness. At that time, his people returned with news. Human flesh was found in every house. Agni, in a panic, shouted at them not to jump to conclusions. But Doma said that the village had never existed and that its inhabitants were not human. As he walked up the ramp, he turned around and asked if there were any gifted here. Agni lied and said no. Then Doma said that he himself had a gift and used it only in the name of the king. He added that if the king were here, he would never have allowed the village of cannibals to exist. When Agni asked what he was going to do, he replied that even death would not stop his flame. And then he set fire to the village. The entire settlement was engulfed in flames. Agni was lost in memories. He remembered the excruciating pain as the fire mercilessly turned his body to ashes, and then the flesh grew back, only to be burned again. This endless cycle of suffering robbed him of the ability to think and speak. All he could do was pray. He begged the heavens to protect Luna, to save her from the fire, hoping that at least she would survive and not touch this hell. He couldn't take it anymore. His own gift of regeneration had become a curse, and he hated it with all his heart. At some point, he noticed that if he concentrated and resisted the restoration with all his might, the limb would turn to dust. And then he decided that he had found a way to get rid of the endless torment. He realized that the only way to liberation was death. In it, The long-awaited peace awaited him. In this seething whirlpool of pain, only one thought held him together. By dying, he would finally meet his parents. But at that moment, he saw the moon. She lay motionless, reduced to an almost ashen silhouette. Her regeneration could not compare to his. Agni knew that it was wrong to think like that. But inside he felt their family would finally be reunited. In his imagination, they were swimming in a cool lake again. He was showing Luna fresh flowers, introducing her to real cows and sheep, and she was tasting cheese for the first time. Luna extended her hands to him. Their fists touched. She whispered for him to live on. Memories came flooding back into Agni's mind. He remembered how Luna had spoken to him of love, how the priest had taught that even in the darkest hour one must not bow to death. He remembered their conversation about the child. And finally, the words of the house, in which he called them scum, unworthy of the title of people. Agni made his decision. He would live. Because Luna wanted him to. The flame inside him was now fueled by hatred. He would swear. One day he would burn the houses to the ground. The first year, he screamed, torn apart by the incessant pain. Neither snow nor a snowstorm could extinguish the flames. By the third year, he was wandering the world, choking on blood, biting his tongue for the 100th time in the hope of easing the torment. By the 5th year, his mind had learned to exist with the pain. His body had regained its mobility, although the flames still tormented him. In the 8th year, he was finally able to control his regeneration. He removed the flames from his face, concentrating them on his body. For the first time in many years, he was able to breathe freely and clench his hand into a fist. And then he remembered Luna. How she dreamed of one day seeing this world with him. Agni remembered how Luna had asked him to survive and wait for spring. He swore to himself that he would survive and take revenge on Dom in the most painful way. He would burn it to the ground. Clenching his fist, he promised that with this very hand, he would turn his enemy to dust. The soldiers were driving across a snowy plain, transporting prisoners in trucks. One of the soldiers asked another what they were planning to do with the prisoners in the back. The partner explained that the attractive women would be sold to rich people, the ugly ones would give birth endlessly, and the men would be forced to work until they dropped dead. He added that these slaves were lucky. In other places, they would have died long ago from hunger or cold. Then the soldier asked to stop the column. He needed to go to the toilet. He went to the bushes, looked at the prisoners with interest, and, noticing a red-haired girl, ordered her to be thrown into the cabin. Then, without hesitation, he ordered the old people to be disposed of, and the children to be given a blanket. He said that the king was looking for gifted people, and ordered everyone with gifts to raise their hands, promising good treatment. A woman in the crowd begged for water for her child. The soldier, smiling, explained that his gift allowed him to create iron out of thin air. According to him, it was God's providence that such a talent did not fall to the poor. He materialized a metal cup, relieved himself in it, and then handed it to the woman, mockingly claiming that the water was fresh and even warm. It contained, he said, the blessing of God. He demanded that she make the boy drink it. The soldier began a countdown, promising that in 10 seconds he would throw the child to the ground. The woman took the glass, and he told her to simply wet the boy's lips without letting him drink. The laughing soldiers watched as she actually carried out the order. He noticed a girl watching him closely and, enraged, demanded her execution, declaring that he hated those who did not know their place. The girl was pulled out of the crowd and placed next to the old men. After that, the execution began. On command, the soldiers began shooting. It was the girl's turn. The commander was surprised that his subordinate was hesitating to shoot. The soldier pointed into the distance. A figure wrapped in warmth was approaching them. Apparently, it was the gifted one. The commander said that he did not tolerate being disturbed and intended to kill the stranger. He squinted to see who was approaching. The figure's face seemed familiar to him. It was the same young man from the burnt village. The world, devastated by the ice witch, suffered from cold, hunger, and madness. And in this icy hell, all living things thirsted for fire. The commander remembered how he himself had brought down a blazing blow on that village. But in the midst of all this fire, there remained a guy who, despite the fire, did not die. Agni remembered his father sitting by the stove with him and Luna. The fire was blazing in the hearth, and his father was telling his children that, like flames, man cannot survive without food. He asked if they were cold. When they answered in the affirmative, he said he had food for only 2. Whatever happened, they had to stay alive. At that moment, strangers broke into their house. Agni and Luna were chained against the wall. One of the captors noticed that the fire was already dying out. He said that without this flame, they would all die, and they survived only because of these two. One of the men looked closely at the wooden blanks and noticed that there were almost none left. He ordered new ones to be cut. Luna screamed in despair, begging them not to repeat what had happened. Arnie asked them to stop, offering to chop off his own hand instead. The merciless executioners chopped off the limbs of Arnie and Luna. Their screams tore through the silence of the house. After a while, the tormentors left, leaving the brother and sister a brief moment of peace. Luna, out of breath, noticed that her brother was cut up much more. Arnie assured her that he felt no pain and reminded her that the uninvited guests were still living in their house. He added bitterly that their parents had been turned into firewood. That's what they called their victims. They didn't even consider them human. He and Luna had the ability to regenerate, and although they could survive, the pain was unbearable. Luna blamed the ice witch for everything. If she had not doomed the world to eternal cold, if at least a little warmth had remained, then perhaps people would have remained kind. Everything around her, she said, became like that because of the cold. At that moment, a man entered the rooms. Agni wondered what he wanted, because it was night, and they should be sleeping. The man responded with a blow, sharp and rough, silencing the young man. After that, he walked up to Luna and began to unbutton his pants. Agni demanded in a rage, so that he immediately got away from his sister. The image of his father appeared in the boy's mind, and his old question, what was he living for? The man continued to hover over Luna, assuring her that if she submitted, he would protect her from the others. Agni began to struggle furiously against his bonds, the chains shaking under his onslaught. He managed to free himself, but in doing so, he broke his arms. Almost immediately, the flesh began to regenerate. His hands were completely healed, pulsating with renewed strength. He turned to Luna, asking her to close her eyes. In an instant, he severed the attacker's head, ending his vile existence. He then explained to his sister that to get out, he would have to cut off his arms and legs. But he promised that it would be the last time she would experience pain. Now Luna is gone, and before she died, she asked him to survive. Agni mercilessly destroys the entire caravan, leaving behind only ashes and debris. The bridge where the massacre took place was previously controlled by Behemdorg's soldiers. They were blinded by greed. Instead of bringing supplies, they only hindered traffic. The freed captives thank Agni for saving them. The young man declares that he had no intention of helping anyone. However, the people standing before him insist that in their eyes he is nothing less than a savior, and now they will pray for him. As he leaves, Agni reflects. He did not save, he simply destroyed the one he wanted to kill. As Agni turns to leave, one of the rescued girls, a girl, calls out to him. She tries to get up, but something appears under her hand. Looking closely, she realizes with horror that it is the severed hand of a dead man. She throws it away in disgust and whispers to herself not to look, trying to convince herself that it was just an accident. The girl catches up with the young man and asks him to listen. She introduces herself as San and shares with a smile. More than anything in the world, she loves potatoes and sweets. Despite his indifference, San continues to run after him. Agni irritably asks why she is so attached to him and orders him to leave her alone, but the girl exclaims that he is God himself. The young man explains in a reserved manner that he is not a god, but simply Agni. He adds that he had no intention of saving her and demands that she stop following him. San, however, does not back down. She explains that she has nowhere else to go and it is warm next to him. If she is left alone, she will freeze, and then she will definitely never try food. Agni asks her what she means. The girl replies that if he allows her to just be there, that will be enough. In exchange, she is ready to share her most valuable thing, a tiny pinch of sugar, saved for a special occasion. A gust of wind snatches the precious sugar from her palm and carries it away. San is upset that the wind has eaten it. Agni continues walking, and San rushes after him again. Meanwhile, a man with binoculars is watching them. He concludes that the young man they found is the one who destroyed their squad. It is clear from his appearance that he is a gifted man with the gift of flame. The observer points out that Agni is naked, which means he is not cold. He also notes the child running after him. The man orders them to be captured alive. He plans to change positions at night, but for now he orders them to keep an eye on the target. By killing the boy, they will be able to take the girl. Even if it is just one, there will be enough for everyone. San, despite being tired, continues to follow the young man relentlessly as if her life depended on it. Agni turns around to check on her condition. San assures her that she is fine and there is nothing to worry about. As she lays down on the cold ground, she remembers how people came to her one day and said that the bishop had prayed and received a sign from God. San must leave the village. The girl was happy that the heavens had noticed her. Her brother explained to her that these people's words could not be trusted. They were just an excuse to get rid of an extra mouth. Food supplies were running low, and San, weak and small, demanded more and more. He warned her that even tears and pleas would not save her, because there would not be enough food. Seeing his sister off, he told her to survive. No matter what happened, she had no right to die. With her death, everything would end. San, remembering her brother's farewell words, cannot hold back her tears. And suddenly she feels warmth. Raising her head, she sees Agni sitting next to her. He says that there is a destroyed building nearby and suggests they go there. They reach the remains of the house. San asks if he can start a fire with his flame. Agni replies that his flame is too dangerous. She must manage it herself. The girl tries to light a fire. After several attempts, the first sparks appear. She smiles happily because she managed to light a fire. San shares. She has a weak gift. She can release small lightning bolts. This is all she has left. She has nothing else. Even in her native village, no one needed her. And in the end, she was considered superfluous and driven away. And then she fell into the hands of Begamdorg. San thanks Agni again for saving her life. However, the young man reiterates that he had no intention of saving her, no matter what she calls him. Watching someone die before his eyes is simply unbearable. He tells her firmly that she must not die under any circumstances. If she dies, she will forget everything that was dear to her. She will forget her brother, the bishop, the village of Tinudian, old lady Toa, and Sugar, because she loved them all, and therefore she cannot afford to forget them. Agni wonders why she mentioned Sugar twice. San explains that he simply loves sweets. Then he asks what he likes. The young man replies that he likes vegetable soup and stewed meat. That's what warmed him in the old days. He tells her that he will set out on a journey the next day, and he urges San not to follow him. In the morning, he leaves alone. After some time, he falls to the ground, feeling how his body continues to burn, and the pain only gets worse if he does not act. In a desperate attempt to distract himself, he tries to think of a way to ease the pain. His thoughts return to the source of his suffering, to the house that took the life of Luna and made his body what it is. He decides that no matter what happens, he will have his revenge. He will definitely kill him. Suddenly, a bullet pierces his head. The attack was sudden. Surrounded on all sides, Agni is shot again. He is shot, but does not fall completely. San hears gunshots, but does not immediately understand what it is. Noticing strangers, she asks who they are. Then she sees the fallen Agni and realizes in horror, they killed him. One of the men looks at the young man and is perplexed. He seems to be dead, but the fire is still burning. But Agni rises, his voice even. This flame cannot be extinguished. He admits that he is incredibly hot, but along with the heat, there is also rage boiling inside him. The squad commander gives a clear order to destroy him. The soldiers open fire on him. The bullets are again piercing his flesh, but he does not die. Agni notices that every time he burns someone to the bone or breaks them, he feels relief. A flash of rage seizes him. He destroys the attackers, one after another, sparing no one. The surviving officer grabs Sun and puts a gun to her head. He orders Agni to stop. One move, and the girl will die. The man asks if she is his daughter, or maybe his sister. He warns that if Agni takes a step, he will pull the trigger. San calls for help, but Agni replies mercilessly. He does not know who she is. She just tagged along. If he wants to shoot, let him do so. San, shaking with sobs, says that she wants to live. Despite the pain, fear, and despair, she begs for a chance to stay in this world. Sun, sobbing, declared that if she died, she begged Agni to live on, at least for her sake. Hearing this, he remembered how Luna had said the same words before her death, and without hesitation, he told the man to shut up, deciding that it was time to settle the score with him. He gave San a subtle sign, and the girl shot a bolt of lightning. However, the captor did not let her go, continuing to hold the weapon to the child's temple. Suddenly, thick snow began to fall from the sky. Huge snowflakes fell on everyone present, causing confusion and panic. But strangely, the snow that fell next to Agni immediately melted, as if the warmth of his body repelled winter itself. He heard the girl's voice in his head again, asking him to survive, even if she herself died. Then he rushed to look for San, desperately looking around the snowy field. A moment later, he noticed a hand sticking out from under the layer of snow. He carefully pulled the girl out, and she, half delirious, recalled her brother's parting words. How he put sugar in his right pocket, handed her a bag of potatoes, begged her to eat little by little. She then admitted that even in her childish stupidity, she understood why she was thrown out. She believed she was the cause of the outbreak in the village, but she promised herself that she would survive, for the sake of all who could not. San, shaking, whispered that it was a miracle. She was alive again. She looked at Agni with delight and said that he must be a god. He answered wearily that it was not a miracle, but a simple coincidence that he was nearby and found her. But San, examining herself, found that she did not have a single scratch and decided that it could not be an accident. She remembered how in her native village she too had not been touched by bruises. When other children were covered with abrasions, people considered this a sign and drove her away. Her brother then thought that if she learned of the destruction of the village, her tears would only hinder her destiny. That's why he asked no one to tell San about the tragedy. After all, her name, which meant the sun, seemed to predetermine her destiny. To bring light, to be warmth for others, to illuminate this dark world. Sana, inspired, firmly decided to follow Agni. She would live and give this world some warmth. Agni nodded and told her not to lag behind. She admitted that she was very hungry and had one last piece of potato left. It was delicious as is, but if you fried it, Agni, without turning around, told her to shut up. Houses appeared in the distance. San, dancing, said that she urgently needed to go to the toilet. Meanwhile, Agni was thinking, maybe they knew something important in that settlement. The girl promised that she would return soon. Already in the bushes, she wondered how water could still flow out of her. She thought that she would probably never want to go to the toilet again. When San returned, she was horrified to discover that Agni had disappeared. Panic gripped her as she realized that she was alone and could freeze in the middle of the white void. She imagined her body turning to ice if she didn't move, and horror paralyzed her. But then she noticed that the tracks Agni had left were melting, leaving a warm trail in the snow. Sun realized with excitement that she could follow them, and thought that she was really smart. Suddenly, a strange, irritating sound is heard in the air. Sun tries to guess what it could be, perhaps the Ice Witch herself, and if that is true, she would like to fight her, but the noise makes her uncomfortable. The girl calls Agni for help. A snowmobile with a man driving it flies up to her. He stops and asks if she has lost her way. The man points out that if she stays here, she will simply freeze to death. He offers to give her a ride to the nearest settlement. Sun agrees and jumps on the snowmobile. On the way, she is surprised by how loud the engine is and asks what kind of device it is. The stranger explains that it is a snowmobile. She thanks him for his help, introduces herself by name, and asks what his name is. He replies that his name is Judas. San says that she loves sugar and asks if he likes it. Judah indifferently denies it. The girl says that she can eat anything. It is her specialty, her gift, and asks again if he has a gift. He is silent, then denies it again. Suddenly she notices a silhouette in front of her and recognizes Agni by his characteristic flame. Sun excitedly asks for the vehicle to stop. When the snowmobile slows down, she takes off and runs towards the burning man, happy to have finally found him. Agni, seeing the girl, asks in surprise what she is doing here. At that moment, Judas suddenly strikes him. Agni falls to the snow, and San is in shock. The young man carefully examines the man engulfed in flames and guesses that before him is the flame of the house. He reports by radio that the target has been neutralized and the enemy is at their disposal. More snowmobiles begin to arrive from all sides. Reinforcements arrive, surrounding the scene of the attack. One of the fighters says that this man has regeneration and is constantly burning in the fire of the house, which means that it is necessary to immediately cut off his head and continue shooting at the skull to prevent him from regenerating. He orders to bring fireproof fabric from the trunk. Mrs. Judas approaches San. It turns out that the commander is actually a girl. She advises the girl to behave more quietly and not stand out, because Begimdorg willingly accepts the young and obedient into its ranks. While she is a child, she is allowed to live with them. She then orders her subordinates to take the girl with them. She will handle the rest of the affairs later, leaving them to her people. The squad continues to shoot at Agni without stopping, one magazine replacing another. When some run out of bullets, others continue shooting. With the last of his strength, Agni whispers the name of the moon. The soldiers pause, light cigarettes, and share their impressions. One says that this is the first time he has ever seen fireproof fabric. He didn't even know that 6th-generation items still existed. They wrap Agni's head in the material to send it to Begim.org. One of the fighters explains that they don't have the resources to produce real fabric. It's just a cheap imitation. If it really is the house flame, the material will last a day at most, so they should hurry up and send it. They carefully wrap Agni's head in fireproof cloth and hide it in a sturdy container. At this time, a young man is working in one of the greenhouses. An adult man comes up and says that today is enough. He has been working for a long time, and now it is time for prayer. The man takes him to the temple. When they arrive, other believers ask where he has been. The young man replies that he was delayed in the field. He is sternly reminded not to be late again. All participants in the ceremony bow their heads and begin to pray, filling the room with reverent silence. At this time, Judas arrives in the city with his men, accompanied by the alarming roar of snowmobile engines. She says she will personally report everything to Doma. She orders the others to keep shooting, so as not to let Agni's body recover. The fighters continue firing and ask if his head is still alive. The flames are still burning, which means he is alive. One of them remembers that this guy killed their comrades. The other wonders why they don't just finish him off. The partner suggests that the case is unusual, and it is worth studying everything carefully first. They watch the severed head, discussing how despite the flames of Doma and the loss of his body, Agni remains alive. His restoration is not a simple regeneration, but something more complex. He is clearly no ordinary gifted. One of the soldiers insists that they must wait for Doma's instructions. Another agrees, adding that immortality is a myth, and if necessary, they will find a way to kill him. According to him, if the guy stops being useful, then nothing will stop them from getting rid of him, no matter what means necessary. He throws away the cigarette butt, considerably softened by the moisture. The cigarette butt falls right next to Agni's head, leaving a faint smoke in the snow, and the soldiers themselves turn and leave. All this time, Agni's consciousness remains chained to the memories of the moon. He hears her voice again in his head, repeating her request to live, no matter what. A memory from the past comes to mind when they met a dog together. Luna then excitedly declared that it was the first time she saw a real bear. San and another girl find themselves in a locked room. The soldiers inform them that this is their new home, where they will live and work. Any attempts to escape will be punishable by death. The girl cautiously asks what kind of work they will have to do. One of the soldiers waves them off, saying he doesn't know, and says he's going to lunch. The girls are left alone. They try to open the door, but the lock won't budge. Nanetto shares her horror that they are most likely being used as toys. San says that she has no intention of becoming anyone's pet. She is determined to run away. She is convinced that she must save Lord Agni, since he has saved her so many times, and now it is her turn. Nanetto asks in surprise who this Agni is. San answers without hesitation that he is God. She adds that she will also bring her dog, as it is too cute. Nanetto states that dog meat is delicious, although she is not a fan of it. She then introduces herself and asks San's name. She replies that it is her name. Nanetto says that she is already 13 years old and asks San's age. She says that she is 8. San realizes that her neighbor is much older. Nanetto reminds San that she mentioned escaping and asks if she has a plan. She confidently says that she does. She adds that she has a gift. She can create tiny lightning bolts and will be able to shock whoever enters, after which she will escape. Nanetto asks to keep this information to himself. San does not understand why. Then Nanetto explains that, according to rumors, Begimdorg does not kill gifted people, but cruelly tortures them until they take the oath. San repeats the words to himself and asks if people are starved here. Nanetto advises not to clutter her head with such things. She herself dreams of escaping. She suggests acting together, because the chances of success are higher. She admits that she does not want to become a victim of violence, give birth, feed, and endure hell again and again. San agrees. She does not want such a fate. It is better to die. Nanetto says that when a man enters the room, she will give a signal by sticking out her tongue. Then San should strike him with lightning. Together they will attack him and escape. San says she understands. At that moment, a man comes in, holding 2 dogs on a leash. The man says they are making too much noise. The man with the dogs will decide the fate of these children. He says he is late asks which of them is allergic to dogs. The man says that these guys are named Cham and Taita. The dog next to the girl licks her cheek. The man says that this is Kika. You don't often see him get so attached to someone. They introduce themselves. And the man says that his name is Jack, and it's nice to meet you. San thinks that as soon as Naneto gives the sign, she will shoot lightning. The man tells them not to be afraid of him. He is not going to do anything to them. Naneto asks him if he is a good person. He answers that, in general, yes, he considers himself not the worst person. Naneto asks what their work will be. The man says that before he answers, they need to talk, because you can only be open with each other when you know each other well. He takes a chair, sits down opposite them, and tells Nanato that he can see that she is still afraid, so they will definitely not get along. He says he likes to study how people think, and he thinks it's much more interesting than looking at the outside. Sun says she doesn't quite understand what he's talking about. The man asks Sun if she likes small animals, like dogs. She says she likes them a lot. The man says he likes them too, but in Begemdorg they are bred as food, they are forbidden to be kept as pets, but since he holds a high position, he is allowed to keep them. Neto says she likes dogs too. She thinks that a person who likes dogs cannot be bad. The man continues to say that they are very simple. Their train of thought can always be understood by their behavior. If they are hungry, they will announce it, and loudly. And if they are lonely, they will come running in search of affection. But if a person is hungry and lonely, then sometimes he can hide it. So the differences between the beast and the man are visible only from the outside, but inside they are the same. He likes to understand thoughts, that is why he likes dogs, and he would like them to like him too, that is why he asks to speak them openly. Naneto says she thought they would be tortured, so she planned to escape, but even if she runs away, she has no family left, so she has nowhere to go. She will be the same everywhere and will be alone. Compared to freedom, it is better for her to stay here. Here someone will take good care of her. The man hugs Naneto and tells her not to worry. He will take care of her, he promises that. At this time, Naneto sticks out her tongue. And at this sign, Sam should have applied lightning. But San is in thought and does not know what to do. The dogs surround San. She starts laughing. Naneto asks why she is laughing. She can't answer. And Naneto finishes the sentence for her. That she is just a fool. She asks San why she forgot about the signal. The man goes on to say that it seems like they broke the ice a little between them, and Naneto says that yes, a little, and San just realizes that it was a signal, and not just Naneto making her laugh. The man says that now is the time to tell them about work, because he who does not work does not eat. He points to the dogs and explains that these two males are quite good guys. The man says that every job has a price, and although his words are soft, there is a clear sense of menace in them. He begins to describe exactly what they will be doing, leaving no doubt that something terrible is waiting for them. San asks the question with naive curiosity, not understanding what is behind what is said. Naneto is stunned, her face pale. The man continues to speak, expressing a strange and frightening pleasure in the topic. San, taking everything literally, shows her willingness as if it were just a game. Her sincerity only adds to the horror of what is happening. Naneto and the man freeze at what they see. The situation takes an unexpected turn. When San takes off her pants, it becomes clear that she is not a girl at all. The man is stunned by the revelation. His face changes in an instant, and a heavy silence falls in the room. The man is furious. He was promised 2 pretty girls, but instead he witnessed a blatant deception. He loudly expresses his disgust and refuses to look at what he considers unacceptable. San, still not understanding what is going on, innocently asks what sex is. The next second, the man pounces on him. San instinctively fires a bolt of lightning, which hits his attacker and knocks him unconscious. Wasting no time, Naneto grabs San's hand and they run out of the room. Naneto looks around, breathing heavily, and says that San is simply incredible. She didn't expect this from him. San falls abruptly to the floor and only then notices with horror that below his knees he no longer has legs. 2 men appear in the doorway. One with a heavy axe in his hands, the other is the same one who brought the dogs. The man with the axe easily lifts San by the collar of his shirt. His companion calls him Ivan and demands not to kill the boy. But Ivan is angry. After all, San dared to hit his brother. The man tries to calm Ivan down, pointing out that San has the ability to produce electricity. He says that the gifted are valuable in Begemdorg and will find a use for him. Ivan, showing no interest in Naneto, asks what to do with her. The man dismissively states that she is useless, but there is no point in killing her. They can't kill people anymore. Ivan nods in agreement. Ivan comments that San is already half a corpse. The man asks to throw the boy to him, stating that he will take care of his treatment himself. Ivan throws San sharply, and he and the man fall to the floor. Ivan laughs loudly, enjoying the spectacle. The man gently touches San's bloody stumps, causing him to cry out in pain. Ivan mockingly expresses regret that his brother must waste his energy on a useless slave. The man orders San to be carried down and informs him that he is now Begemdorg's property. He adds that from now on San will be tied and forced to produce electricity non-stop, because this is what God chose him to do, and also that this duty was imposed on him by the king himself. After this, Ivan and his brother go out to smoke. Once outside, they discuss among themselves what to do with the burning head. One of them turns to Judas, asking about the strange prisoner. Judas calmly replies that Doma is still outside and that the person asking the question should ask him. The man recalls rumors that Doma was deemed mentally unstable and suspended from missions, but Judas says that she invited him and explained the situation in person. After putting out her cigarette, Judas says that she simply told him that he left something behind in these parts.